Hey there, and welcome back as we continue our tour of the seven wonders of the ancient world. But what makes something a wonder? What makes it something that we have to go see it? Well, originally it was decided by four different men. They all made a list of things that you had to see before you die.
Ooh.
Alexandria has long captivated our imaginations, from its great library all the way to the mysterious lighthouse. Archaeologists and historians have actually devoted their whole careers just to studying Alexandria. Unfortunately, this wasn't always the case. Alexandria, like so many other places around the world, fell into obscurity. In the 1890s, an Englishman named D.G. Hogarth wrote, "There is nothing to hope for at Alexandria." Unfortunately, archaeology at that point in time was really nothing more than, is it shiny or flashy? Yes, keep it. If it's not, just go ahead and throw it back. This led to Alexandria being largely overlooked until the 1990s, when an archaeologist named Jean-Yves Emperor showed up to Alexandria, and he watched as the city started to flourish, as new offices went up, new apartments were built, but he also noticed the history being carried away and just thrown into the nearby lake. So let's head back to Alexandria and see what made it such a tourist spot. It was originally founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BCE. He founded the city because of its natural harbor and its strategic location in the Mediterranean. It's actually said that Alexander himself laid out what he wanted the city to look like. He wanted the city walls to be 16 kilometers long. He wanted the city laid out in a grid pattern because that's the best pattern to lay a city out in. Everybody knows it. He also wanted a canal built all the way from the Nile, which was some 32 kilometers away. But unfortunately for Alexander, he wouldn't live long enough to see what his city could become. He died in 323 BCE at the age of 32. This left his general, Ptolemy I, in charge. Ptolemy had already been given control of Egypt, so this was an easy transition for him. When he took over, he ushered Alexandria into what we would know Alexandria for today. Before Ptolemy could start building any of the projects that he wanted to do, there was one thing he had to do really quick, and that was liberate the body of Alexander from the people trying to take him back to Macedonia to bury him. Once he got Alexander back to Alexandria, he had a structure built to house Alexander's remains, and this became the city's first tourist attraction. The second major tourist attraction for Alexandria would come around in 295 BCE. Ptolemy had this idea to make Alexandria a place for scholars, for knowledge. Ptolemy put Demetrius of Phaleron in charge of building the Great Library. He was supposed to fill the library with works from all over. The problem is, the guy was Greek, and as such, he decided that Greek work kind of took precedence over any other work. Not saying that they didn't have other work in there, but majority of it was Greek. It's said that the Ptolemies took their acquisition of knowledge so literally that they took to stopping ships in the harbor. The ships would be searched, any books on the ships would be taken back to the library, and from there it would be determined if the book was kept, copied, or given back to the owner. But as you know, all good things must come to an end, and so must the library. In 48 BCE, a man you know, Julius Caesar, through an act of desperation, accidentally destroyed the library. He got involved into a civil war between Cleopatra and her brother, Ptolemy XIII. Ptolemy's forces surrounded Alexandria on both sea and land. So through an act of desperation by Julius Caesar, he set the docks and the boats on fire. Unfortunately, it wasn't contained, and it ended up spreading into the city and burning the library down. You've now made your way to Alexandria, and you can see the tomb of Alexander, but the library's been burnt down. So what do? Well, if you came by boat, you probably went by it, and that's the mysterious lighthouse. I say mysterious lighthouse, not because we're uncertain if it existed, because we know it did. We just don't really know what it looked like. There's a lot of conflicting stories on what the lighthouse actually looked like. I want to do a thought experiment with you real quick. I'm going to name a very famous structure, and I want you to describe it to me in the comments below without looking it up. The Statue of Liberty. What do you see? Chances are, most of us are going to have the same descriptors about the Statue of Liberty. It's a green lady holding one arm in the air. But there's going to be something that you wrote down that is going to be special to you, that stood out to you, that didn't stand out to somebody else. I imagine that was probably much the same way about the people writing about the Lighthouse of Alexandria. That's not to say we don't have some facts about the lighthouse. We know that it was ordered to be constructed by Ptolemy II on the island of Pharos sometime between 300 and 280 BCE. When it was finally constructed, it was 110 meters tall, making it the second tallest man-made object for its time, just behind the Pyramid of Giza. We know that it was white, making it easier to see during the day. And we know it was constructed in 3 layers, and at the very top had a very large statue. But that's not really all we know about the lighthouse. Most of the work we have for the lighthouse was actually put together by Hermann Terrasch in 1909, and he says that the base was square, the second layer was octagonal, The third layer was cylindrical, and there was a large statue at the top. The statue at the top is thought to either be Alexander the Great or Ptolemy the First. We're not really certain. They were either dressed up to look like the sun god Helios or Zeus himself. What fuel they used to make the light for the lighthouse, we're not really certain. It's safe to assume it was oil, because at this time wood was exceedingly rare in Egypt. We aren't too sure when the lighthouse was actually destroyed, or what even destroyed it. We know that it stopped appearing in the historical records sometime during the 14th century CE. It's thought that during the 1330s, an earthquake is what destroyed the lighthouse finally. We know that by 1477, the lighthouse was no longer there, because Malamute Sultan Qutb was actually able to construct a fort on the island. And this is where our archaeologist, John Yves Emperor, actually comes to the rescue again. Egypt was looking to build a breakwater around the island in 1994. They asked him to come in and do an archaeological survey and map out anything of archaeological significance under the water. And what he discovered in the water around the island was enough to make the Egyptian government not build the breakwater. He discovered hundreds of large stones, some thought to be associated with the lighthouse itself. He also discovered a statue dating to the 3rd century BCE, thought to be of Ptolemy II. Alexandria offers us a glimpse into what modern archaeology can do, where past archaeology couldn't. As new technology comes about, we're able to take and do more and see more. I want to thank you all for watching, and I want to thank the patrons. With their help, I'm able to make all of these videos a possibility. And you know that tourist spot that you might take for granted? Well, maybe don't, because you don't know when it's not going to be there anymore.